Good morning, afternoon, evening, guys. We're back with another random tier list. Today, starting the first of several videos where we're going to be talking about pro wrestling this weekend. Not everybody's cup of tea, but is definitely mine. This weekend is the biggest event of the year for the wrestling world. We have WWE Wrestlemania, which this year is a two-night event hailing from Dallas, Texas. And because a lot of the restrictions with pandemic and stuff are coming to a close, there are a ton of shows happening this weekend in Dallas. A lot of them you can watch at home. If you're in the Texas area, you could go to a lot of them. Some of them are not streamed because it's more smaller companies. So you have all these small companies and groups all running shows. You guys can see them here. Literally, I have 50 shows to rank. Some of them we will talk about in more detail than other. No disrespect, but some of these are just kind of random indie shows with guys who are just starting out or are not well known. So no disrespect to them, but we will have a tier for that. We are going to be focusing more on the larger shows that you can probably watch at home and may want to. If you guys like random tier lists like this, usually about something going on or actually just whatever I think of at the time, leave a comment down below letting me know. I appreciate that. Like, subscribe, all that other YouTuber stuff I'm supposed to plug. Whatever you want to do is helpful and appreciated. With all that said, guys, let's get started. We are starting off with the very first show of the weekend. These are in loose chronological order, but I will not get the time of most of them correct. So just be warned on that, I suppose. The first show is Glory Pro Wrestling Cemetery Gates, and it is available from the Collective Bundle. There are a couple bundles this weekend that you can get. So this one is on Fight TV, and as you can see, you can get it here. You can buy it directly, just this show, or you can get it from the Collective Bundle, which is like $140, which may seem like a lot, but I believe you get 12 shows, which is, definitely a lot. So, yeah, this is the first show, Glory Pro Wrestling. We see the card here. A couple names that stand out to me, Warhorse versus Josh Alexander. That should be a good match. We also have the No Remorse Core of Davey Richards and Rocky Romero. I've never heard that name before, but obviously I know who Richards and Romero are. And other than that, I don't know a lot of these names. Oh, we have Jake Something from Impact here as well. So I'd go ahead and rank this one as a not really interested to me, to be honest. Again, no disrespect to some of these smaller shows. We are just going to have to be honest with, there are bigger shows this weekend than others. But if I was in Texas, which I'm not, I would definitely be going to some of these shows that may end up down here because I love wrestling for $20. Next up, we have Bloodsport. Bloodsport right here, also this one's not the Collective Bundle, this is part of the, this is Collective, yeah, so this is part of the same bundle as the last one. This one has some bigger names here. We have Jon Moxley versus Biff Busick, the former Only Lorcan from WWE. We have Alex Coughlin, Josh Barnett versus Jonah, the former Jonah Rock and Jonah Hex, and whatever his name was in WWE, Bronson Reed, right? We have Timothy Thatcher and J.R. Kratos. That should be a great match. We have Yuya Uemura and Mike Bailey, Royce Isaacs. Lots of names here. Marina Shafir of UFC fame. A lot of names here that should be fun to watch. I'd go ahead and put Bloodsport 8. This is the 8th time they've done a card like this. I'd say this is going to be worth a watch. Now, Bloodsport, if you're not unfamiliar, has no ropes. That's the gist. It's a lot of MMA, a lot of striking, a lot of submissions type holds. So I'd say that's worth a watch. We got to speed it up a little bit, or this is going to take an hour and a half. AAA invades WrestleCon. So this is part of the other package, the Fight Fest package. So there's a Collective package and a Fight Fest package. I'm going to link everything down below, including voicesofwrestling.com, who compiled this list originally. So check the comment section down below, the description down below. You'll see all these links. And if you want to skip to the end of the video, I totally understand. But if you want to know my breakdown and what some of these matches have, we'll be going through all the matches here. So we got Psycho Clown, Tauros, Later Kid, Bandito, and Flamita in a three-way. Pagano, Jack Cartwheel, Gringo Loco, Aramis. I don't know everybody on here. I don't watch AAA all the time, but this show probably won't be bad. I'd say, those top two matches are fantastic. Psycho Clown versus Tauros and the three-way for the Cruiserweight title. Is it the Cruiserweight title? Yeah, AAA Cruiserweight title. This is probably worth a watch. I might downgrade it to maybe, but it's probably on a similar level of Bloodsport. Next up, we have MLW Intimidation Games. We have Alex Hammerstone versus Jacob Fatu versus Mads Kruger. Davey Richards versus Richard Holiday. L.A. Park and L.A. Park Jr. versus Gangrel, making his return to wrestling. We have Enzo with an open challenge. Shaza McKenzie is here. Myron Reed is going to be here. So yeah, some good names on there. Some people have been watching MLW a lot more lately. I'd say it's maybe. I have not personally gotten into MLW as much, but I know there are some people who are really, really, really starting to enjoy that. I know my father would probably put it up here in good show. He's a big MLW fan lately. You guys will see I missed 2 shows, and the reason for that is I don't have a picture of them. These shows are not being streamed online. They are Insane Hardcore Wrestling Extreme Combat and Iconic Heroes Wrestling Excellence Old School Hustle. So 2 very different events, a hardcore wrestling event and an old school wrestling show. And I don't really recognize any of the names on these matches. So I am going to go ahead and just put them in random indie. Simon Miller is going to be on one of the shows. So yeah, it's 1 ticket. You get 2 shows for, I think it was like $15 when I looked. So pretty good deal. Like I said, some of these shows in these green tiers I would go to if it was near me, but it is not. So yeah, going to go ahead and put those down there for that reason. Next up, we have Control Your Narrative, the company started by EC3 and Adam Scherr, the former Braun Strowman in WWE. Killer Kross will also be on the card. Braun Strowman is not actually wrestling. Not sure if he's still hurt or what's up with that, but EC3 is, Killer Kross is, a couple other people on their card. Let me see here. They have Eric Redbeard and Damo teaming up, Weston Blake, Flip Gordon. So it should be a pretty good card. I have not caught a Control Your Narrative show yet. I believe they only had 1. But a new company here with a different little vision. I'd say this is probably worth a watch. Next up, we have Joey Janela's Spring Break 6 Part 1. Joey Janela's Spring Break is a show they hold every year. It's part of the Collective Bundle. And this one has Jon Moxley defending the GCW Championship against AJ Gray. Mickie James versus Allie is going to happen there. Allie Catch, that is. Joey Janela versus X-Pac. Blake Christian versus AR Fox. We have an ultra-violent title match, which should be pretty crazy. And then we have a 3-way title match for the tag titles, including the Briscoes, Matt Tremont, and Nick Gage, and a third team that I honestly don't recognize. Yeah, this card should be great. Joey Janela's Spring Breaks are usually good. I've watched them before. They're also usually ridiculous. This is part 1, so this is happening earlier in the night, and then part 2 will be at midnight that night, I believe. Or it might be the next day. I say this is worth a watch. Don't worry, they won't all be. Next up, we have the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Super Show, which let me see if I can find an image of that. All right, here we are at the March Hitchcock Memorial Super Show 2022. They do this show every single year. It's one of the main events main shows on WrestleCon, which is the Fight Fest package or part of that. So we have the Briscoes versus the Rottweilers, which is Low-Key and Homicide. Minoru Suzuki versus Buff Biswick. Timothy Thatcher versus Ishii. We have a 10-man tag with his first name, Onita, from Japan, and then also PCO, who I believe they're both about the same age, so that makes sense. We have Speedball Mike Bailey versus Bandido, Athena versus Mia Yim, Josh Alexander, Black Taurus, Ace Austin, Michael Oku from the UK, Ray Horace, Laredo Kid, John Morrison versus his wife, Taya Valkyrie. Yeah, that's quite the card. The Hitchcock Memorial Show is always fantastic. This one I'm going to go on. It actually might be a must-watch, to be honest. That card is fantastic if you're a fan of indie wrestling. Even if you only kind of watch a little bit old school TNA, New Japan, you would still recognize a couple of these names, which is pretty awesome. I'm going to put Hitchcock into the must-watch category for now. We'll see if it stays there. Next up, we have Ghouls Night Out, which is from the Dark Arts Entertainment and Full Blown Pro Wrestling. Some of these names, yeah, that's going to be a random indie. If you are there, you can check that out, 8 p.m. at the Upper 90s Soccer Center in Arlington, Texas. I do have the in the link below that will be all of the places where these will be held if you are in the area. Next up, we have GCW Planet Death, again part of the GCW Collective one. This one a smaller show though. Personally, I don't recognize any of these names, though Slade is wrestling on one of the shows earlier. I've also heard of Shane Mercer. So if you're a fan of any of these guys, GCW, I'm going to go ahead and put it in a not interested myself. But I know some people are like die-hard GCW fans, so that might be one to look at. Next up, we have another collective show. We have GCW versus LA Fights. Coming up here, we have, again, one of these smaller shows. Jake Cartwheel is fantastic. I've seen him at PWG. B-Boy is great as well. I've heard of Nick Wayne. Have not seen him. So yeah, this is going to be LA Fights versus Jersey Championship Wrestling, GCW. This show, probably not interested. Not a lot of huge names, as I said. The next one, Zicky's Dice, Trouble in Paradise 2. This one is actually not being streamed, as far as I can tell. I'd actually put it as a maybe. I might be interested in this card if it was being streamed, if I was able to watch it. They're going to have Lince Dorado versus Black Taurus there. Effie will be there facing Mike Bailey. Scotty 2 Hottie, Rich Swann. Masha Slamovich is fighting a bear? So that's happening. Yeah, can we put this higher even though we can't watch it? Can we put it in worth a watch? Masha Slamovich is going to fight a bear. That's amazing. This is happening at the Fairmont Hotel. So they're going to have the bear in the hotel, I guess. Interesting. All right. Next up, we have MLW, another Major League Wrestling show, Azteca Underground for this one. We have LA Park versus Jacob Fatu, Octagon Jr. versus Matt Cross, Flamita versus Bandido. Those guys are always excellent together. Enzo's going to be wrestling. The main event for this one is going to be, at least I think this is the main event, is going to be Hammerstone and the Von Erichs versus Mads Kruger, Richard Holiday, and King Muertos. Alex Kane, Puma King. Oh yeah, Puma King. Excuse me, I was thinking of somebody else. ACH and Myron Reed are also going to be in a 4-way. This card should actually be really, really good. I actually think this sounds better than Intimidation Games. And to my knowledge, I thought Intimidation Games was supposed to be the bigger card, but I could be wrong about that. Yeah, I think Azteca Underground sounds really, really good. We might have to upgrade some of these to good show. I actually think that Azteca Underground and Spring Break will probably be better than the other shows in the Worth a Watch. So let's go ahead and move those up to good shows. Next up, we have For the Culture, another GCW collective show. This one focusing on a lot of African American wrestlers. I know a lot of the members of a lot of the guys that were released from WWE in the last year are going to be here. Rich Swann, Tasha Steeles, Big Swole, AJ Gray, Darius Lockhart, JTG. Not all those guys released from WWE, but all of those guys, people that I know, which is good. That's not the case for most of these shows. We'll get into some cool ones. We have all of Shane Taylor Productions here. We have Trish Aldor and MJ Jenkins. Too Cold Scorpio. I don't know how I skipped over him. Yeah, it should be a pretty good show. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and put it in a maybe on that one. It is, I think, a step up from Cemetery Gates, Planet Death, and LA Fights. But I would not put it any higher than a maybe for me. Next up, we have a show that I don't have a cheat sheet for. Zello Pro. This one is also not being streamed, but Warhorse will be there. Simon Gotch will be there. So will Davey Richards. Shazza McKenzie will be wrestling. Chelsea Green versus Rachel Ellering. We have Swoggle. The former Hornswoggle will be there. This card is not bad. It is not bad. If I was in the area, I would definitely consider it. I don't think it's as good as Ricky Dice's. These names, guys. Ricky Dice's Trouble in Paradise 2, but yeah, I'd say it's a maybe. Next up, we have one that will be streamed. This one is part of the Fight Fest package. So we have New Japan Pro Wrestling Lone Star Shootout. We have Mike Bailey versus Jay White. Chris Dickinson in his comeback match against Tomohiro Ishii, Ren Narita, Rocky Romero. Finn Juice will be there. Carl Fredericks and Yuya Murray will be there. This one should be a pretty good show. Is it quite going to be a good show? I'm going to put it at the bottom of a good show. It might get bounced down, but I do think it's going to be a good one. Next up, we have Live Pro Wrestling. Cover All Bases, which is, I believe, Guavamania 2. Zoa Live. I don't know which one of those is the company name, but yeah, random indie there. I unfortunately do not recognize any of these names, but hey, maybe I will in a few years. We have Texas style wrestling on Foolish Business. Similar thing here. Interesting thing here, though, is that the NWA Tag Team Championships will be on the line with La Rebelión versus Los Misfits. That's the only names on the card I recognize, but interesting that they were able to get the NWA Tag titles there, so that's pretty cool. Next up, we have Ring of Honor Super Card of Honor. Ring of Honor making their return, now owned by Tony Khan, the owner of AEW. You'll also notice there's no AEW shows on this list because they are not running any in the area. Ring of Honor is, though, despite being owned by Tony Khan. And interesting thing is that this is a very big deal, a very big high-profile show. Ring of Honor's return. But I don't know if you can actually watch it. I don't know what it's being streamed on. Is it just on TV? I don't actually have like a link for it or anything. Maybe they're not streaming it because Tony Khan doesn't want to go against WWE. I don't know. But the card is Bandido versus Jonathan Gresham to unify the world title. The Briscoes versus FTR. Josh Woods versus Wheeler Yuta. Alex Zane is going to be there versus Swerve. And then Jay Lethal versus Lee Moriarty. This is the most must-watch show we've talked about right so far, easily. And I don't even know if you can watch it. But if I was there, I definitely would. So, yeah. Next up, we have Gringo Loco's The World on Lucha. Let's go ahead and pull that one up. What was but a second for you there was like 20 minutes for me, because I went ahead and looked up the Ring of Honor show, and it's going to be on Honor Club. So the card will be on there for you to watch if you have that subscription, just like usual. I guess Voices of Wrestling didn't list that because they assumed people weren't as dumb as me and would remember that. So yeah, Super Card of Honor. Back to our tier list here, we have The World on Lucha, which is from Gringo Loco. So he's running that show. We have Octagon Jr. versus Drago Kid, Shane Mercer, Arrow Boy there. Dr. Wagner Jr. versus Psycho Clown. That will be an awesome match. Team Gringo versus Team Laredo. We have Jack Cartwheel there and AR Fox. Should be a pretty good match. Psychosis there. I think he's like 50, but he is there. This one should be probably worth a watch. I think it sounds better than... I actually think it sounds... Well, it's about on par with the other AAA show. So, this one not a AAA show, actually. This is part of the collective for GCW. Which the other AAA show was. There. Okay, let's move on. Next up, we have an indie show that I don't have a tag for. Its name is No Peace Underground X Fear City, New Fear City, Murder Mania. Yeah, I had to find that exact name for you guys. It's a random indie. We do have Masha Slamovich there, who is the one who's going to be fighting a bear at another show. So that's pretty cool. Ty Valkyrie is also facing Pero. That'll be a pretty good match. But, should I upgrade this to not interested? We'll upgrade it to not interested. Well, I don't know. It is a random. It doesn't matter. Next up, we have SmackDown. Yes, we are counting WWE SmackDown for this event. And I think I just bounced out of order, actually, here. Ooh. We do these in one takes, guys. Technical difficulties. Give me a moment. And we are back. Made sure all my lists here were in order. The show I just talked about, No Peace Underground X New Sphere City, Murder Mania, is this picture right here. That one is actually not being streamed. It's at Creators Don't Die. I don't know where that is, but it sounds awesome. And I don't know hardly anything about it other than some of the names that I already listed for you. Moving on here to... so that's what messed me up, was we were out of order. So the next one in order actually was DFA All Pro Wrestling, another indie. I don't even have the card for this one. It does say that the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, are going to be there, but I don't really know anything about this card other than that. Next up, we have WWE SmackDown, which, despite not being an indie, is on this list. SmackDown this week, I do think, will be a good show. It's going to be the go-home show for Mania. The Andre the Giant Battle Royal is going to be on there. The only thing that's keeping me from putting it must-watch is that I don't think that Cody will be there. It sounded like they're going to wait for Mania to bring him out as a surprise. If Cody was going to be there, and you have the Andre Battle Royal, I think that'd be must-watch, but right now it seems like the only cool thing on it is that Battle Royal. Moving on now, we would have had No Peace Underground, which is here, but we actually now have Martinez Entertainment. Now we're back on track. It is Lucha Leyendas. I think the actual show name is Noche de Leyendas Dos, which is Night of the Leyendas, which I don't know what that means. One sec. Legends! It means legends. I asked somebody close to me who speaks Spanish much better than I do. Noche de Leyendas. Legends. So Night of the Legends. Yeah. This one, do I have a card for? I do not. Probably going to be another random indie, though. Let's look who's there. We have Ultimo Dragon. Michael Elgin going to be there. I didn't know Michael Elgin was still wrestling. He's going to be teaming up with Psycho Clown against Black Taurus and Laredo Kid. I swear, Black Taurus and Laredo Kid are both wrestling like 8 matches this weekend. I remember a couple years ago, Will Ospreay wrestled like 6 in like 2.5 days, which was crazy. Yeah, it's going to be a random indie, but they do have some names there for sure. Next up, we have Impact Wrestling Multiverse of Matches. I almost said Madness. That's the name of the movie. Multiverse of Matches here. And here's the card here. Oh, no. Card's down here. Yeah. Okay, so we have Eddie Edwards versus Tomohiro Ishii, Chris Sabin versus Jay White, Josh Alexander and Jonah versus Moose and PCO, Alex Shelley versus Mike Bailey. Deonna Purrazzo will be having, I believe, an open challenge for one of her 2 titles. And then that's actually not it. Oh yeah, we have the return of Ultimate X, and then the Good Brothers will be fighting the Briscoe Brothers. That's a huge match. So I just didn't read very well there. But yeah, that is going to be a must-watch. I don't watch Impact Wrestling all the time anymore, but I do think it is going to be a must-watch show. A pretty great show this year. Next up, we have Joey Janela's Spring Break 6. So this one is happening right after Spring Break 6 Part 1, I believe. This one is airing at midnight, or it's taking place at midnight, which will be whatever time, for you. But it's airing at midnight if you're in Texas. This show, again, $19 to buy this one straight up, but it is part of that GCW collective package if you wanted to get that for like $150. This card, we know Minoru Suzuki versus Effie is going to happen, PCO versus Mike Bailey, Matt Cardona with Chelsea Green against Chris Dickinson with Missy Hyatt. We have Biff Buzzek versus Tony Deppen, and there'll also be some other matches and surprises. The Spring Break cards are usually pretty crazy with a lot of surprises since it's happening at midnight and everything. That one, probably going to put in a good show with the other Spring Break. Next up, we have the Multiverse of Matches, basically post-show. It's called Impact Provincial Wrestling Federation. And basically all of the Impact stars, or a lot of them, are going to be acting like traditional 80s guys, I guess. Like Doc Gallows is playing Sex Ferguson. That sounds hilarious. I'm going to put it in a maybe, because am I actually going to watch that? I don't know. But it does sound hilarious. This is happening right after Impact, so if you are going, I believe you get into both. I'm not sure how that works, but I don't know. I'd put it in a maybe. NXT Stand and Deliver. This one I have the official WWE page for. We have Dolph Ziggler defending his newly won NXT Championship, who he won from Braun Breaker. He's defending it against Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker, his father and his uncle are going into the Hall of Fame this weekend as well. So it's going to be a big weekend for the, I almost said the Breaker family, for the Steiner family. And that should be awesome to see him re-win this title, win it back, I presume. Other matches on the card will be Mandy Rose defending against Cora Jade, Io Shirai, and Kaylee Ray. Do you finally give Cora Jade the title? I still think it's a little early for, do you give Kaylee Ray the title? Could do. Do you keep it on Mandy Rose? I don't know. She's been a pretty good heel. So is Dolph Ziggler, by the way, bringing up that. Yeah, good match. North American Championship ladder match. We have Carmelo Hayes defending against Santos Escobar versus Solo Sikoa, Grayson Waller, and Cameron Grimes. Should be great. NXT Tag Titles, Imperium versus the Creed Brothers versus MSK. Should be great. I think you finally give the Creed Brothers the titles here. They've been trying to push them for a while. NXT Women's Tag Championship match. We have Toxic Attraction defending against Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai, who back together again. I do assume that they will win those titles. Tommaso Ciampa will also be fighting Tony D'Angelo. LA Knight will be fighting Gunther, the formerly named Walter. This should be a really good card. I mean, this is a must-watch, right? You watch this right before you watch Night 1 of WrestleMania, I believe. Next up, we have USA versus the World, which is another WrestleCon show. I believe this is in the Fight package. This one, we have Michael Oku versus Rich Swann. Sam Adonis is going to be there. Gringo Loco and Flip Gordon will be fighting against, it's 3-on-3. They're going to be on a team fighting against a team including Aramis. We have Richards, Mike Bailey, Big Damo, Bandido and Horace are going to be there. Should be a pretty good card. I'd put this in good show. Next up, we have Effie's Big Gay Brunch, which he's done this 3 years now. Yes, this is his 4th show. Not a lot of matches announced for it, but we have Effie in what I assume will be the main event. We also have Para Wrestling and don't know that name. Yep, those are going to be the 2 names I know. Big Gay Brunch, I'd put in probably a maybe, just for the notoriety that they only do that show once a year, right? I'd put it in maybe. Next up, we have RCW Mania. Let me find the actual name of this show. We have the first of many matches from Texas Mania 3. Texas Mania 3 is a huge 2-day event happening in Texas, in Arlington, where they're just going to have indie show after indie show. All, I assume, are local indie federations, though I don't know that for certain. And the first one here is River City Wrestling. It's going to be a random indie. If any of these names on any of the Texas Mania shows stick out to me, I will let you know. Weston Blake is on this one, and they will also defend their main championship, but I don't know any of the names in it. Jazzy Jang will be there with Jimmy Wang Yang. Who is Jazzy Wang? Is this Jimmy Wang Yang's, daughter? Who's the Wang? You say Jazzy Wang. Alright, somebody let me know in the comments who this is. Anyway, moving right along here, we have Turning Point Turmoil Roughhouse. There's a wrestler on this named Circumsexy that automatically puts this into the random indie section. Next, we have Soar Pro Wrestling. Another random indie. We have Mission Pro Wrestling at Bangers Only, which does sound like a random pro wrestling show, but it's actually not. This is part of the GCW collective. Let me toss this over here. It is a all-women's show. Lufisto will be there. Let's see. Ali Catch will be there. Killing King is going to be there. They also, I believe, had Thunder Rosa there on the picture, but I don't see her here on the card, unless I just can't read. Oh, it was underlined. Yeah, Thunder Rosa is going to be fighting Trish Adora. Should be good. Some good matches there. I'd say probably maybe. Well, probably worth a watch. I don't know enough about the women's wrestling independent circles, so some of those names I might just be ignorant on. I don't know. If anybody happens to watch this video and is a connoisseur, let me know. Next up, we have another Texas Mania 3, Gulf Coast Wrestling Alliance. Matt Cardona is actually going to be on this show, as is Bandido, as will be the NWA Tag Team Championships and the GCWA Tag Team Women's Championships there, with Chelsea Green challenging for that one. So some decent names here. Going to be random indie though. Rampage Wrestling, I literally have no information other than that it's happening in Tulips, Fort Worth at 4 p.m. Cool. Texas Mania 3, another Texas Mania show. This one's called Hybrid Mania 2. Jimmy Wang Yang and Jazzy Wang will be on this card as well. Those are the only names I recognize, I think. All right. Next up, we have Unsanctioned Pro with their Mulligan show. This is believe another GCW collective show. Could be wrong about that. Not a lot of huge names on this show, though it is going to be streamed. In fact, I'm not sure I know any of these names. Ooh. So I actually have the option of watching this one because it is going to be streamed, but I don't think I'm that interested. Yeah, I'm going to put that down in not interested. Next up, we have This Is Manly. That's an amazing show name, but I'm not very interested. Well, I guess it's a random indie. But I actually don't know what like company it is or anything. And I don't recognize any of the names, so I cannot tell you much else. Next up, we have Wrestlemania 38 Night 1. That one's going to get its own dedicated video. That'll be coming out on Saturday. And we'll just also say that the Sunday one will be coming out on Sunday. So this weekend, 2 videos, Wrestlemania Nights 1 and 2. Those will probably be linked somewhere if you're watching this in the future. Next up, we have Lucha Maniacs. This one not being streamed, but a pretty good card here, including Black Taurus and ACH. We have the NWA Tag Team Championship on the line once again. We have Myron Reed is going to be there. Lince Dorado. Aramis. Yeah. Not a horrible card. I'd say maybe. If I was there, obviously, because this one is not being streamed. We also have Metroplex versus The World. I don't know much else about that other than who's on the poster. I don't have a list for that one. Texas Mania 3, Inspire Pro. Davey Richards will be there. And that's pretty much it in terms of well-known names. Texas Mania 3, New Texas Pro. Josh Alexander will be challenging for their world title, so that's pretty cool. They also have their women's championship on the line. And Chris Bay will be there. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So again, no disrespect to a lot of these indies who I'm putting down here. If I was there, I would consider going, but seeing as most of them you can't even watch, yeah. One you can watch is the next one coming up. It is Black Label Pro Norm. Norm is the name of their show. I don't know why. If anybody knows, let me know. But we have the Black Label Pro Championship, Jake something versus PCO. Tom Lawler is going to be there. Davey Richards is going to be there. Blake Christian and Black Taurus. Alex Zane. Warhorse versus Big Damo. That's going to be awesome. Shaz McKenzie is going to be there. We have a Texas Death Match. I've never heard of Big Beef, but I want to see him in a Texas Death Match. That sounds amazing. Yeah, Black Label Pro should be a pretty good show. Perhaps not on the level of like Spring Break and Lone Star Shootout, but yeah, should be worth a watch for sure. Next up, we have Texas Mania 3 DFA All Women's Pro Wrestling. Yeah, full women's show again. This one from a random indie. We have Texas Mania 3 Texas All-Star Wrestling. This is just a continuation of these Texas Mania matches. Like I said, it goes for 2 days straight. Yeah, just show after show. Texas Mania 3 Global Wrestling Federation. In both of these matches for Texas All-Star Wrestling and Global, they'll be defending their world titles. Or excuse me, I guess they both say their world titles. But that's all I got for you. Next up, we have Texas Mania 3 Laredo Wrestling Alliance. It says that one night. I actually like that. Next up, we have WrestleMania Night 2. We already mentioned that's going to get its own dedicated video. And to finish us off here, what better than 2 more Texas Mania 3 cards from New Texas Pro and VIP Wrestling. Now, these shows actually do have some better names on them. The Texas Till I Die show, which is this one, has Davey Richards on it, Shaz McKenzie, and I've heard of Willow Nightingale. Yeah. But the VIP Wrestling, this one is going to end off their week. They're saving the best for last. They have Minoru Suzuki, Shane Taylor versus Loki. Matt Cross is going to be there. Josh Woods will be there. Gringo Loco, B-Boy. Yeah, so some names there, but I would put it in that random indie category. So this is what we end up with, guys. We have 4 must-watch shows this weekend, other than WrestleMania, which I'll be doing dedicated videos on. So I definitely recommend that you check out Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor, the March Hitchcock Memorial Super Show, the Impact Multiverse of Matches, and NXT Stand and Deliver. Let me know if there's any of these others you were interested in, or if you watch this in the future, which one of these were good. Appreciate if you've made it to this point in the video. With all that said, guys, thank you for watching. This has been the guy who makes random tier lists, and I'm signing off.